Hi everyone, welcome back to Bible in a Year. My name is Natalie and today we are on day 87. I'm so glad you're here and I hope everybody's doing great today. We're going to be reading out of Exodus chapter 37, Proverbs chapter 19, Acts chapter 27, and then we're going to close out the day in Psalm chapter 60, but we're only reading verses 1 through 4. I don't know. I hope they're good. So here we go. Exodus chapter 37. Bezalel made the ark of acacia wood. Its length was 2.5 cubits, and its width a cubit and a half, and a cubit and a half its height. He overlaid it with pure gold, inside and outside, and made a molding of gold for it around it. He cast 4 rings of gold for it in its 4 feet, 2 rings on its one side, and 2 rings on its other side. He made poles of acacia wood and overlaid them with gold. He put the poles into the rings on the sides of the ark to bear the ark. He made a mercy seat of pure gold. Its length was 2.5 cubits, and a cubit and a half its width. He made 2 cherubim of gold. He made them of beaten work at the 2 ends of the mercy seat, 1 cherub at the one end, and 1 cherub at the other end. He made the cherubim of one piece with the mercy seat at its 2 ends. The cherubim spread out their wings above, covering the mercy seat with their wings, with their faces toward one another. The faces of the cherubim were toward the mercy seat. He made the table of acacia wood. Its length was 2 cubits, and its width was a cubit, and its height was a cubit and a half. He overlaid it with pure gold and made a gold molding around it. He made a border of a hand's width around it and made a golden molding on its border around it. He cast 4 rings of gold for it and put the rings in the 4 corners that were on its 4 feet. The rings were close by the border and the places for the poles to carry the table. He made the poles of acacia wood and overlaid them with gold to carry the table. He made the vessels which were on the table, its dishes, its spoons, its bowls, and its pitchers, with which to pour out, of pure gold. He made the lampstand of pure gold. He made the lampstand of beaten work, its base, its shaft, its cups, its buds, and its flowers were of one piece with it. There were 6 branches going out of its sides. 3 branches of the lamp stand out of its one side, and 3 branches of the lamp stand out of its other side. 3 cups made like almond blossoms in one branch, a bud and a flower, and 3 cups made like almond blossoms in the other branch, a bud and a flower, so for the 6 branches going out of the lampstand. In the lampstand were 4 cups made like almond blossoms, its buds and its flowers, and a bud under 2 branches of one piece with it, and a bud under 2 branches of one piece with it, and a bud under 2 branches of one piece with it, for the 6 branches going out of it. Their buds and their branches were of one piece with it. The whole thing was one beaten work of pure gold. He made its 7 lamps and its snuffers and its snuff dishes of pure gold. He made it of 1 talent of pure gold with all its vessels. He made the altar of incense of acacia wood. It was square. Its length was a cubit, and its width a cubit. Its height was 2 cubits. Its horns were of one piece with it. He overlaid it with pure gold, its top, its sides around it, and its horns. He made a gold molding around it. He made 2 golden rings for it under its molding crown, on its 2 ribs, on its 2 sides, for places for poles with which to carry it. He made the poles of acacia wood and overlaid them with gold. He made the holy anointing oil and the pure incense of sweet spices after the art of the perfumer. Wow. Absolutely beautiful. And can you imagine being the person that has to fulfill God's direction? So God says, this is how I want it. You go ahead, here you go. And here he makes it exactly to God's liking. I wish I could have just sat there and watched the whole thing unfold. I'm so curious. Or is that being nosy? I don't know. Proverbs chapter 19. Better is the poor who walks in his integrity than he who is perverse in his lips and is a fool. It isn't good to have zeal without knowledge, nor being hasty with one's feet and missing the way. The foolishness of man subverts his way. His heart rages against Yahweh. Wealth adds many friends, but the poor is separated from his friend. A false witness shall not be unpunished. He who pours out lies shall not go free. Many will entreat the favor of a ruler, and everyone is a friend to a man who gives gifts. All the relatives of the poor shun him. How much more do his friends avoid him? He pursues them with pleas, but they are gone. He who gets wisdom loves his own soul. He who keeps understanding shall find good. A false witness shall not be unpunished. He who utters lies shall perish. Delicate living is not appropriate for a fool, much less for a servant to have rule over princes. The discretion of a man makes him slow to anger. It is his glory to overlook an offense. The king's wrath is like the roaring of a lion, but his favor is like dew on the grass. A foolish son is the calamity of his father. A wife's quarrels are a continual dripping. House and riches are an inheritance from fathers, but a prudent wife is from Yahweh. Slothfulness casts into a deep sleep. The idle soul shall suffer hunger. He who keeps the commandment keeps his soul, but he who is contemptuous in his ways shall die. He who has pity on the poor lends to Yahweh. He will reward him. Discipline your son, for there is hope. Don't be a willing party to his death. A hot-tempered man must pay the penalty, for if you rescue him, you must do it again. Listen to counsel and receive instruction, that you may be wise in your latter end. There are many plans in a man's heart, but Yahweh's counsel will prevail. That which makes a man to be desired is his kindness. A poor man is better than a liar. The fear of Yahweh leads to life, then contentment. He rests and will not be touched by trouble. The sluggard buries his hands in the dish. He will not so much as bring it to his mouth again. Flog a scoffer, and the simple will learn prudence. Rebuke one who has understanding, and he will gain knowledge. He who robs his father and drives away his mother is a son who causes shame and brings reproach. If you stop listening to instruction, my son, you will stray from the word of knowledge. The corrupt witness mocks justice, and the mouth of the wicked gulps down iniquity. Penalties are prepared for scoffers, and beatings for the backs of fools. Okay. Moving into Acts 27. All right, so Paul is traveling. I did a little pre-read on this, and I am having difficulty with the names of the cities, much like when we were in the genealogies a couple months ago. So I'm going to do the best I can. I'm not a traveled person, and geography is not my source of education. So I'm going to do the best I can. But Paul is traveling, and it is a bit of an interesting story. So here we go. Acts chapter 27. When it was determined that we should sail for Italy, they delivered Paul and certain other prisoners to a centurion named Julius of the Augustan band. Embarking in a ship of Adramyttium, which was about to sail to places on the coast of Asia, we put to sea. Aristarchus, a Macedonian of Thessalonica, being with us. The next day we touched at Sidon. Julius treated Paul kindly and gave him permission to go to his friends and refresh himself. Putting to sea from there, we sailed under the lee of Cyprus, because the winds were contrary. When we had sailed across the sea, which is off Cilicia and Pamphylia, we came to Myra, a city of Lycia. There the centurion found a ship of Alexandria sailing for Italy, and he put us aboard. When we had sailed slowly many days and had come with difficulty opposite Cnidus, the wind not allowing us further, we sailed under the lee of Crete, opposite Salmone. With difficulty sailing along it, we came to a certain place called Fair Havens, near the city of Lasea. When much time had passed, and the voyage was now dangerous because the fast had now already gone by, Paul admonished them and said to them, Sirs, I perceive that the voyage will be with injury and much loss, not only of the cargo and of the ship, but also of our lives. But the centurion gave more heed to the master and to the owner of the ship than to those things which were spoken by Paul. Because the haven was not suitable to winter in, the majority advised going to sea from there, if by means they could reach Phoenix and winter there, which is a port of Crete, looking southwest and northwest. When the south wind blew softly, supposing that they had obtained their purpose, they weighed anchor and sailed along Crete, close to the shore. But before long a stormy wind beat down from shore, which is called Euroslydon. When the ship was caught and couldn't face the wind, we gave way to it and were driven along. Running under the lee of a small island called Clauda, we were able with difficulty to secure the boat. After they had hoisted it up, they used cables to help reinforce the ship. Fearing that they would run aground on the Syrtis sandbars, they lowered the sea anchor and so were driven along. As we labored exceedingly with the storm the next day, they began to throw things overboard. On the third day, they threw out the ship's tackle with their own hands. When neither sun nor stars shone on us for many days, and no small storm pressed on us, all hope that we would be saved was now taken away. When they had been long without food, Paul stood up in the middle of them and said, "Sirs, you should have listened to me, and not have set sail from Crete and have gotten this injury and loss. Now I exhort you to cheer up, for there will be no loss of life among you, but only of the ship. For there stood by me this night an angel belonging to the God whose I am and whom I serve, saying, 'Don't be afraid, Paul. You must stand before Caesar. Behold, God has granted you all those who sail with you. Therefore, sirs, cheer up, for I believe God, that it will be just as it has been spoken to me. But we must run aground on a certain island.' But when the 14th night had come, as we were driven back and forth in the Adriatic Sea." Let me start that again. Verse 27. "But when the 14th night had come, as we were driven back and forth in the Adriatic Sea, about midnight the sailors surmised that they were drawing near to some land. They took soundings and found 20 fathoms. After a little while they took soundings again and found 15 fathoms. Fearing that we would run aground on rocky ground, they let go 4 anchors from the stern and wished for daylight. As the sailors were trying to flee out of the ship and had lowered the boat into the sea, pretending that they would lay out anchors from the bow, Paul said to the centurion and to the soldiers, 'Unless these stay in the ship, you can't be saved.' Then the soldiers cut away the ropes of the boat and let it fall off. While the day was coming on, Paul begged them all to take some food, saying, 'Today is the 14th day that you wait and continue fasting, having taken nothing. Therefore I beg you to take some food, for this is for your safety, for not a hair will perish from any of your heads.' When he had said this and had taken bread, he gave thanks to God in the presence of them all, and he broke it and began to eat. Then they all cheered up, and they also took food. In all, we were 276 souls on the ship. When they had eaten enough, they lightened the ship, throwing out the wheat into the sea. When it was day, they didn't recognize the land, but they noticed a certain bay with a beach, and they decided to try to drive the ship onto it. Casting off the anchors, they left them in the sea, at the same time untying the rudder ropes. Hoisting up the foresail to the wind, they made for the beach. But coming to the place where 2 seas meet, they ran the vessel aground. The bow struck and remained immovable, but the stern began to break up by the violence of the waves. The soldiers' counsel was to kill the prisoners, so that none of them would swim out and escape. But the centurion, desiring to save Paul, stopped them from their purpose and commanded that those who could swim should throw themselves overboard, first to go toward the land, and the rest should follow, some on planks and some on other things from the ship. So they all escaped safely to the land. What a story. Wow. Being tossed and turned, and the fear, 14 days. 14 days of being terrified on that boat. And not only are you on a boat tossing and turning and having to throw things overboard so the boat doesn't capsize, 14 days of it, you're also a prisoner. Oh my goodness. So Psalm chapter 60, but only verses 1 through 4. I'm so curious why they said it like that. Let's find out. So this is for the chief musician to the tune of The Lily of the Covenant, a teaching poem by David when he fought with Aram Naharaim and with Aram Zobah, and Joab returned and killed 12,000 of Edom in the Valley of Salt. God, you have rejected us. You have broken us down. You have been angry. Restore us again. You have made the land tremble. You have torn it. Mend its fractures, for it quakes. You have shown your people hard things. You have made us drink the wine that makes us stagger. You have given a banner to those who fear you, that it may be displayed because of the truth. And that's where we're going to end it for today. Well, we had at least a couple great stories, a couple great pieces of history. I absolutely love how the tabernacle and ark have been built and just the details in there. I do know that you can do a search on YouTube and there is a digital recreation of how it was built, and it is really cool if you like that kind of thing. And then just the imagery of this this travel with Paul. Anyways, lots to think about today. I hope everybody has a fantastic rest of the day. Please come on back for tomorrow. I think we're going to be finishing up Acts. Let me double check before I make a false statement. Yes, friends, we're going to finish up the book of Acts. So come on back for tomorrow, day 88. Until then, have a fantastic day, and we will see you tomorrow. Bye.